Hello and welcome to Trojans Live. Jordan Moore, Sean Cody, John Jackson on the show now. This is Trojans Live, and we're doing our USC football offensive preview this week. We talked defense all last week, and we had Kerry Colbert on. We had a couple receivers, Gary Bryant and Katie Nixon. Now we welcome in another receiving great. JJ, were you listening to KC, man? He had so many nice things to say about you. You must have been shedding a tear back there.
Yeah. Hey, now this is how far back we go. KC, he was at Hueneme. The first game on Fox, I think, was Hueneme and against somebody else out there where it's so far, I don't even remember who it was. Somebody out in Oxnard.
The first game of the season, or was that the first game that Fox had broadcasted?
First game Fox broadcast.
Oh, wow. So that was like late 90s.
Yeah, that's how old we're getting.
That's right. It was a long time ago, Jordan. Thanks for pointing out the year.
It was the invention of television.
Yeah, that's right.
Was that game in color?
Went from black and white to color in those days.
Well, you and Casey have something else in common. You both finished your careers on the tops of the all-time reception chart, and you've both been passed up many times over ever since. And that's only going to get worse because of the way that offense is played now. And so that's my segue into this offense. And, it's interesting. Sean, you can start, but, we look at last year, and again, they didn't have a spring ball. They didn't really have a fall camp. When you look at Graham Harrell, you almost look at that as like year 1.5, and now we go into year 2.5 almost, or did you see a lot of changes from year 1 to year 2? And do you expect to see, where do you want to see them improve, in year 3?
Well, I expect to see more changes going into this year. Last year, I think it was, a lot of teams were on a short clock to try to get a lot of stuff in. You didn't know where we were going to be. You didn't know when we were going to play football. Just kind of had to stay ready. And I don't think in that shortened season, they were just trying to survive out there and not really install too much stuff. So I think this year you'll get a real chance to see it with a spring ball and with a fall camp, what they're going to do. But I think for offensively speaking, Jordan, I think one of the biggest things they got to concentrate on this year is you know the talent. The guys, the players at the skill positions who we got. You got to protect Keaton this year. That's, I think, number one. He's, last 2 years he's ended the season with injuries, and he's the guy who's going to make this engine tick. So they got to do a good job of protecting him. They lose Elijah Vera Tucker at that left tackle position, so they got to find someone to step in because they got to do a better job of protecting Keaton if they're going to throw the ball that many times.
Well, and then that comes to, do you throw the ball that many times, JJ? And I think the answer is probably yes, although they've added some talent in the backfield. I think they're recruiting a little bit at the running back position, maybe more to the way that they're playing. We see a Marquise Step leave, and a lot of people have asked me about that. They're sort of bummed out about it. I kind of get it. To me, it was like a win for both sides in the sense that Marquise never made sense in this USC offense. I mean, we would talk about it constantly in the air. We loved him as a back, but they didn't love him as a pass blocker, and they didn't love him as a pass catcher. And that's what we ask our backs to do for the most part. So you send him to the Big Ten, where he'll get to line up behind a fullback and pound the rock. And then you bring in a Keontae Ingram from Texas. You bring in a guy like Katie Nixon, who's a receiver, but maybe can line up in the backfield. Another sort of breakaway back in Brandon Campbell. So, where do you see that run-pass balance, JJ, and sort of what they want to do with the running game going forward now that they're starting to get some of their people in as opposed to just playing the inherited, players that when they came in?
Yeah, I think the run-pass ratio will stay about the same, but I expect this to be a more physical team on offense and defense at the point of attack, offensive and defensive line. Sean, the defensive line has to get more physical.
Always. No, after watching a couple of those spring practices, it looked like they're, implementing a little Oklahoma drill. It seems to me that the teams are getting after a little bit up front. And that's what you want to see. I can recall my times back at SC. It gets ugly down there in the trenches sometimes, and you have to practice that in order to get used to doing that. It's not going to come naturally on a Saturday. You're not going to show up and be a physical team unless you practice it. And it looks like from my vantage point, at least they're trying to get a little more physical out there.
And they have to get better in short yardage. So even if you are a passing team, sometimes the game comes down to 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, and goal line situations, right? So you can be the passing team all you want. You still need to have that in your arsenal.
Yeah, and I think getting the tight end more involved is going to be something moving forward too. They got Seth Doji as the coach, new coach there, stepping in there, and I think they got to get some more out of that position. It can't be a wasted position out there in the field. You got to utilize all those spots. And if it's Eric Kromenhoek, if it's Josh Follow, if it's Jude Wolf, if it's Michael Trigg coming in as a young man and making some plays, so they need to find a better way to utilize that position to make sure everywhere the defense has to account for everybody on that offense side of the ball.
JJ, a guy you've known for a long time is Brew McCoy, and we're talking about the opportunities for receivers. We were talking about obviously your son, big opportunity for him this season. But do you think Brew is ready to sort of take over the Pittman role? That sort of outside position. Where do you see the receivers stepping up?
Yeah, I do. I think Brew will play a big role in this offense because. What people don't understand is that Brew has great top end speed. You don't realize that until you actually get out there against him and find out after he scored a touchdown on you, wow, that guy's fast. So he has really good top end speed, not to mention his size and his length. So I think that he has a big role. I mean, he's going to have to have a big role and a big year if this team is going to be successful.
JJ, I had a question for you. I want to throw in a JJ. I think a lot of this offense is going to be built around Keaton. And, his freshman year, he comes out, he kind of, sets the world on fire. They start taking Heisman talk, and then kind of a little sophomore slump. He gets into, a funk. His motion in his arm or whatever's causing the ball to come out that way kind of has, that sophomore slump. What's it going to be like for him this season? And what does he have to do in this offense to make sure they're rolling at a high click, JJ?
Well, I mean, I think, as you know, Sean, it has to be ball distribution, and also he cannot throw the ball to the other team. Throw it to the guys at Cardinal and Gold, not the other team. So he can't go colorblind on Saturday. He has to make sure he throws it to the Trojans and does not make the critical mistakes to turn the ball over. That's the one thing that'll kill the offense. And Keaton is very good at that, and that's where I think his strength is. And he'll have to get even better too, because now teams have 2 years of film on him. They've seen him play a lot. And you know how it is, Sean. The more people see you, the more they learn how to defend you. So, I think that if they can, the right mix of run and pass, they're going to have to run the football. We all agree on that, to be physical, because there's going to be some critical points where you have to be physical at the line of scrimmage. But Keaton and the ball distribution and not throwing the ball to the other team is going to be paramount. But he is the guy for it. I love Keaton as a quarterback. And I love his mentality. I love the way he plays the game and everything else. And throw it to number 80.